at TNT, one of our core values is Kaizen, right? It's this idea of continuous improvement. In order to be committed to continuous improvement, in the first step, admit that we're always a beginner, right? We're always learning. We're always willing to admit what we don't know, which means that we have to let go of perfectionism.
And like the empty your cup. And, it's like the white, martial arts thing, right? The classic, you start as a white belt and you build your way up. And, almost anyone who's really, really, truly spent time, exploring martial arts, when they get to that point where they finally get a black belt and whatever it is, that's when they realize, whoa, I'm still just learning.
Yeah.
We are about to launch
Solo Round.
What's up, everybody?
Truth, not trends.
Truth, not trends.
Hello, everybody.
Jesse Schmidt and Liam Bauer in the house, in the building, in the studio.
What's going on, people? This is the podcast where we help you maximize your strength as safely
and efficiently
as possible.
Possible.
My name is Jesse Schmidt, and I've been a strength coach for 2,051 days.
My name is Liam Bauer, and I have been a strength coach for 35 years.
35?
It's not 37 yet.
37.
37?
35 years and counting.
Yeah!
People, we've got a solo round today, and we are going to be talking about discipline, motivation,
procrastination,
habits, perfectionism, all of that stuff that's important to have in line so you can be enabled to train safely and efficiently on a regular basis.
We're not talking too much about strength training today.
No, it's a little, we're going to get into the
wandering down the path.
We did.
We held hands.
We skipped a little.
Yeah, we did. We talked a little bit about...
Whistled.
Yeah, that was not me. Here, wait, let me whistle.
Liam cannot whistle.
That's not a skill I possess.
Yeah, we've got some book recommendations for you in this episode. We've got some podcast recommendations. We hope that in the content of this episode, you'll find some material that will help keep you motivated in this 2023 year.
If you're not started, it'll get you started.
Boom. And speaking of getting started, we got some podcast partners here that are going to help with that too.
If you're looking for something to train at home, the best damn home training system in the world, it's not Pendulum. It's the Harambe system. That's right. The Harambe system. It's the best band-based strength training system on the planet. It is made out of stainless steel and high molecular weight plastic with patent pending sling system. It is incredible. You can create every barbell exercise you can possibly imagine. Squats, deadlifts, front squats, back squats, rows, one arm, two arm. The thing is incredible. They keep on making it better. They keep on making it cheaper. It's like the best of all worlds. It's made by our friend Khalid Borbeya, a.k.a.
Boo, Robbie!
That's right. He is a genius. And not only that, the guy is shredded these days. You got to track him down on Instagram. He looks like Steve Reeves. He's looking like a superhero. He's like a movie star. The guy is living the Harambe shred life. So pick one up, go to Harambe System, and make sure you enter the code TNT to get 15% off all the swag in the Harambe System store.
There you go. And your next trip should be over to Low Cal Foods Cali.
That's right.
Feed your inner athlete. Low Cal Foods is bringing you customized, pre-cooked meals right to your doorstep, or you can pick them up right here at the TNT studio.
Have them delivered and stop on by. Get an autograph.
Say hello. That's right. We're going to be famous someday. So Low Cal Foods, you can pick your own foods. You can customize the meals yourself, or you can choose from some of the preset meal options they have. They are delicious. And the best thing of all, because we train busy people, and busy people listen to this podcast.
That's right.
And also busy people who want to stay shredded. All you got to do with these meals is pop them in the microwave. Our microwave's kind of old, so it takes me 3 minutes to heat them up.
Yeah, but you know what? 3 minutes is not a long time to make a meal.
That's right. 3 minutes, still pretty quick.
A
lot shorter than the hour it takes to put together a meal otherwise. So please check out Low Cal Foods Cali. And when you do, use the discount code TNT Strength 5 to get 5% off your order. Now, stay tuned for this solo round on discipline, motivation, habits. Boom, baby.
Take some action to make some action. What are we talking about?
All right. So we're talking, there's different schools of thought here. Some people are all about motivation. Some people are all about discipline. You know about discipline. Some people are all about habits.
I know about procrastination.
So we're going to talk about a little bit of each of those today.
I'm an expert.
Discipline. Tell me about procrastination. How do you become an expert procrastinator?
I don't know if you have to train at it. I think it's kind of like getting fat. You don't need a coach.
Well, what are some of the hallmarks?
Or maybe you do if you're like a type A person and you just can't help but, make the list, check the boxes. And maybe it's challenging for you to like not do stuff. But I feel most humans probably default to the not doing versus the doing. But I could be wrong.
Okay. So tell me, what are some of the hallmarks there?
I can't say. I just know that for me, it's like such a big part of me that I literally have been dreaming about it my entire life.
Yeah. Well, so I mean,
I have these weird nightmares that I over the many years I finally recognized that they were all about procrastination. I would have these dreams. I call them procrastination dreams now, but for years I didn't know that that's what they were about. But it's always the story changes, but the ultimate topic is always the same. It's something super important that needs to get done. And for whatever reason, it takes me, like maybe it's a soccer game. It's the championship game and it's super important. And I got 40 minutes to get to the game and it'll literally take me like 15 minutes to put on one sock. You know what I mean?
In the dream.
Yeah, in the dream. And in the back of my mind, it's like the time is just clicking away and I'm like, I got to get to the gym. Oh, it takes me 15 minutes to put on another sock. You know what I mean? And just like, where's my shoe? I can't find it. And then I'll wake up all discombobulated, And I've been having those dreams for my entire life. But like, again, the story changes, whatever it's about. When I was a soccer player, it would be soccer related, right? When it was something else, it'd be something, So the underlying theme though is always consistent.
I mean, this stuff happens in real life too. When, let's say we decide, I'm going to be a runner. I'm going to start jogging, okay, well, I don't have a pair of running shoes. So you're like, I got to get running shoes. And then it takes you like a month to buy a pair of running shoes, right? Like,
got to do some research.
Yeah.
So research those shoes. Should I go barefoot or should I have those ones that are like a giant cushion on each foot?
Yeah. So discipline, motivation, habits, those are all the light side of the other side of the coin. On the negative side, we're looking at procrastination. We're looking at perfectionism. We're looking at, being critical of yourself when we're trying to put these new things in place. So I think this stuff comes down to knowing yourself and knowing what type of person you are. We've talked about this sort of thing in previous podcasts where, you might be the type of person that, needs to do something every single day in order to feel like you're staying focused on your overall goal. And that might work. Like if your goal is to go on a walk every day, I think that's totally reasonable, right?
Yeah.
Like a lot of people do the 10,000 steps thing. You could look at that from a discipline standpoint. Like you say, okay, in 2023, I'm going to do 10,000 steps every single day. And you try to just, put a check in that calendar box every single day. You could look at it as a habit. I think a habit is a little bit lighter of a way to look at it. Like discipline to me, just for me personally, habits are like they're a default rather than like discipline. I don't know. Discipline just feels a little harsh.
Like brushing your teeth, right? Like
yeah.
People get to that point where it just feels like something's not quite right if they didn't do it, right? Like I'm one of those. I'm like fastidious, right? So I cannot go to sleep without brushing my teeth and taking a shower and all that kind of stuff. Like literally, it doesn't matter if
you're a nighttime shower guy.
I always shower before I go to bed. Always. And it doesn't matter. Like if I stayed up till 4 a.m, I can't just fall asleep and go to bed. No matter how tired I am, I gotta take a shower before I get in bed.
So one thing, this is a great book you guys should check out if you haven't read it already. It's the author's James Clear. It's called Atomic Habits. And in Atomic Habits, he talks about activator activities, right? So it turns out that in general, there are certain things that we do that kind of get the ball rolling on certain habits, like what Liam was just talking about. He's got a like pre-bed ritual, right? I have the same thing. I do the similar before bed, but in the morning, I usually wake up, I drink a glass of water. That's like the first thing. I might do it before or after the shower, but in no particular order. Right when I wake up, I read an entry out of the Daily Stoic. That's the Ryan Holiday book. It's just a little snippet of Stoic philosophy.
Instead, I read out of the Daily Curmudgeon.
And he puts it into practice, believe you me. So that's I read a page out of that. I drink a glass of water. I throw some creatine monohydrate and some electrolytes in that. I take a shower, brush my teeth, shave, and some mornings I wake up just like every other human being, and I don't want to do it, right? And the thing that does it for me now is putting my feet on the floor. It sounds strange. I made a deal with myself at some point that every morning when I wake up, so this is, I guess, the discipline side of things, I just put my feet on the floor. And I don't know what it is, but like my alarm goes off, and no matter how tired I am, I just put my feet on the floor. And sometimes I sit there, I just sit there on the side of the bed for a couple minutes. But just doing that just kicks off this process. Then I read my page, go to the bathroom, I do the other stuff, and it's like autopilot at this point.
I actually have a little bit of a more similar morning ritual as far as like I take alpha lipoic acid in the morning because I like to take it on an empty stomach. So I take that first thing, and I usually have creatine too. A lot of times I'll have like water with lemon juice in it or something like that. I actually try to shave at night now. I just feel like I don't want it because I got to shave every day because I'm like high maintenance with shaved head and all that.
You might think Liam has alopecia, but he doesn't.
It's by choice.
He just shaves.
I look that way by choice. But I got in the habit of now, like I shave at night with that other stuff, with the shower, teeth brush, little shave, hit the bed with a fresh shave, and then I can get up and just not think about it in the morning. That part.
Yeah. So if you were to ask James Clear, the author of Atomic Habits, how do I start, doing a thing? He would say, just take the first step. And you really need to just, whether you're coming at it from a standpoint of, okay, I'm going to be disciplined about this, or I'm going to create a new habit. I think there's a slightly different way of framing those in your mind. You get one really solid, right? You've got to do it for a consistent amount of time. And depending on who you ask, maybe it takes 12 days to get that new habit going. Maybe it takes 90 days. Really,
I feel like it's somewhere in the middle of that.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, a month or two, right?
20-something days, probably.
Yeah, something like that. 45. Just like if you're thinking about the routine that I just mentioned, put your feet on the floor, read a page, brush your teeth. Don't say, okay, I'm going to do Jesse's morning routine. Just put your feet on the floor. Just wake up in the morning and just put your feet on the floor, and do that for 30 days. And then after 30 days, put your feet on the floor and read a page out of a book or whatever you're going to do. Go brush your teeth, right? And then 30 days after that, then you have a third thing. And you're going to see that after a while, it just sort of becomes ingrained in you. And this is another sort of like psychological trick, is like sometimes, like all of us have that voice in our head, like whether we're going to go do a workout or go to work or whatever it is, it's just like, no, like I don't want to today. Right. And you like build it up in your mind, and in your mind, that morning routine or whatever it is, it takes an hour and it's going to be a huge headache, and you just, I don't have the patience for it today. Just do the first thing. Just tell yourself, like, I'm going to put one foot on the floor or something like that. Like, I'm not even going to get vertical. I'm going to stay horizontal and just let my leg fall out of the bed and put one toe on the floor.
Yeah.
Right. And just by taking the tiniest little action, you initiate, right? That's the activator step. You initiate this process that then, because your brain wants to be on autopilot. Right? I
recently wanted to get interval training, like fasted cardio, right, back into my plan, and I've just been struggling with adding it. I actually own a Carol bike, so I have like this awesome AI, high tech, super awesome bike, and the workouts are short. They take maybe 10 minutes. It's hard to make excuses about that, but I would just not do it because sleep is hard to come by for me. But just started doing it. I just set my alarm clock 15 minutes earlier because it takes 10 minutes, what I mean? And so I just,
it's not a big time commitment. It's a big mental commitment.
Yeah, I'm taking 15 minutes less sleep to make sure I can get in and get on the bike. It gives me enough time to get up, get my brain active, jump on there. It doesn't take more than 10 minutes. It's hard work, but it's brief. And so I've been doing it this week, and already just, you feel good, right? Because as soon as you accomplish that thing, you just feel better immediately. Like, hey, I said I was going to do it. I did it. And so now I've done it twice this week. I did it this morning, and I had to get up even earlier this morning, as you know. So I was up at 5:30 this morning and still got on the bike. And before I came into work, sometimes it's just like making that, we were just talking about this earlier, like, it takes action to make action, right? So some people are waiting for the thing that will motivate them. And Jesse and I were talking before we got on about how I feel like you need, the action is what creates that, it gets you moving. So like Jesse's saying, put that foot on the floor. Don't think about it. And don't hit the snooze button.
Right. Yeah. I see kind of a corollary between this and like, some people say like, you got to do what you love. You got to be passionate about what the work you do, but also just love it. Like whatever you're doing, just loving what you're doing. It works in both directions, depending on who you ask. And I think from a, just from a mental resilience standpoint, like you have to be able to kind of switch gears. Sometimes, some days we feel, like discipline kicks in and we go through that, mental process and it's effortless. And other days, we wake up, or it doesn't have to be the beginning of the day, middle of the day, end of the day, whatever it is. Sometimes we need that motivation. So that's how I think about motivation. For me, as far as like health habits go, exercising on a, strength training on a regular basis, running, conditioning, eating healthy food, those things basically fall into the discipline and habit bucket for me. And motivation for me is sort of the icing on the cake. It's just around the edges. Like I read, like I just started reading David Goggins' new book. He's the former Navy SEAL. He's an ultra marathon runner. He's done all this stuff. He talks a lot about how he's overcome all kinds of trauma. He had an abusive father and at one point he weighed 300 pounds and he had to lose like 100 pounds in a month or something crazy like that. Just like inhuman amount of weight to lose in a very short amount of time. And he kind of the way it is very motivational, like because he's just overcome so much. But the way he talks about it, he's not, the way what he would say is he's not trying to motivate people. He's trying to help people be disciplined. But it is, it's, if you walked into Barnes and Noble, he'd be in the self-help section. And so, that those sort of things, like whether it's a podcast for you or music or I guess I should say for me, like sometimes I get motivated by books or podcasts or music, but that's like 5 to 10% of like what helps me, continue the holding in place the habits that I want to hold in place.
Yeah, I think for me, and it changes. I just hit 60 in August, and I want to like feel like that I can function at the highest possible level for as long as possible. So for me, it becomes that sort of like I don't want anything to slow me down for as long as I can. So I want to keep on going, and you see it, right? You see it in other people around you, or you might have seen it in people, family members, friends who are succumbing to these things, not making better choices with their exercise or nutrition or whatever, and how that manifests. And again, for me, because I want to be engaged with the people that are important to me too, right? Like sort of like that idea, we talked about it before, put on your oxygen mask first before you put on the little kid's mask, because you got to take care of yourself if you want to take care of other people. And, for parents, they have to take the best care of themselves. Parents are often concerned about their children, but they don't take care of themselves while they're worried about the best for their kids.
Right.
They need to take care of themselves as best as they can in order to be able to be there for their kids. And I want to take the best care of myself because I want to be there for people that are important to me,
right,
as long as I possibly can.
You want to be an example.
Yeah, but I want to really be there. Like, if people are important, I don't want to like fade out,
Right. I think another thing that really helps to keep in perspective about all of these things, discipline, motivation, habits, procrastination, perfectionism, is that we underestimate the amount we can get done in 5, 10, 20 years, and we overestimate the amount we can get done in 1 year. And I think that works at the macro level and the micro level. We totally overestimate what we can do in a week, and we underestimate what we can do in a month or 6 months. So I know it's sort of a frustrating thing to accept if you're like let's say you have a goal of losing like 50 pounds of body fat or something like that, or you're totally sedentary and you want to run a marathon or something. So you have like a big goal that's like far away from you, right? Or that it's, because if we're coaching somebody to lose body fat, we'd say, okay, if you want to lose 50 pounds sustainably, that's probably going to take about a year. right? About a pound a week or so. Some people do it faster, some people do it slower, but sustainably, right? And so what we want to do is we want to do it all at once, right? Because if you want to lose 50 pounds of body fat in a sustainable way, you probably need to strength train. So that's one habit you've got to build in. You've got to eat healthy, right? We also know that, from research around sleep, that people who sleep longer lose more body fat and gain more muscle or maintain more muscle. So, you got to eat better, work out, sleep better. Cortisol affects body fat storage. So cortisol is a stress hormone. So while you're sleeping perfect nights and working out and, eating better, now you got to like stay stress free. And you know what?
It seems like a lot of stuff.
Yeah, it is a lot of stuff. That's at least 4 different habits, probably more. And not all of them are in your control, because what are the things that affect our stress levels? There are family, which are other people. We don't control them. Sitting in traffic, all kinds of things affect our stress levels. So
I was just talking about that with Taylor and trying to get him. I was trying to teach him, that the traffic doesn't care if you're mad about it.
That's right. It does not.
It was like an epiphany for him.
Yeah.
I was like, it doesn't care if if you're mad or if you're in a hurry. It literally doesn't care. And the truth is 99% of those people on the road don't even know you exist, right? They're all caught up in their own little stuff, right?
Yeah.
So getting out of the traffic is a waste of energy.
Yeah. And this is, we're getting, going down a little rabbit hole here, but this is why I read Stoic philosophy on a daily basis. So I think Stoicism is kind of like in vogue right now. It's getting a lot of publicity, largely because of Ryan Holiday, Tim Ferriss. So this is a philosophy that is based on sort of the beliefs of people like Seneca and Epictetus, these like Greek philosophers who really believe that the best way to go through life is to accept that you will die and to make the best of it. And they actually think of that as a motivating idea, right? That we each have a limited amount of time, and that's what actually makes life meaningful.
Right.
And that really what we need to do is whatever comes at us in our day, we need to be grateful for it. And really the most sort of granular way to think about that is just waking up in the morning is something we should be grateful for,
right?
Because it's not promised. People have heart attacks in their 30s, right?
Sure.
You could have an aneurysm, right? Anything could happen. Like right now, this present moment is the only thing that we are guaranteed. And so if you can, right, even if everything in your life is going wrong, right? And I understand, like, people deal with some heavy shit on a regular basis, right? But if you can frame that in your mind, regardless of what it is, as something that's teaching you, right? Something that's building your character.
Right.
Now, everything that comes at you in your life is something that it is adding to you, and you can absorb that. And that in itself can motivate you.
It's kind of like the the warrior mindsets, right? Like the samurais and that kind of stuff. Like they've already accepted that they're dead, right? Or they're going to die. It frees them in a way. They're not worrying about it,
right?
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It gets a foregone conclusion, right? You're going into battle, right?
Yeah.
You just accept it, and then and I think that has worked with a lot of different warriors, whether they're conscious or unconscious. I mean, that whole concept of sort of warrior mindset, like Dan Millman's Way of the Peaceful Warrior, and there's some other authors, Shogum Trungpa and different guys that have written some interesting stuff along that. It's not really religious stuff, but it's similar and
right.
It's philosophical, right? A different way it's a paradigm shift.
Liam just threw out Dan Millman's name, who's a longtime friend of his and guest we had on the podcast back at episode number 46. He wrote a book called The Way of the Peaceful Warrior, and he's written a bunch of other books. And I didn't mention this as part of my morning routine, but that's also another part of meditation as part of my morning routine, has been for at least the last 6 years. And personally, I started meditating after listening to Tim Ferriss's podcast, where he said that 40% of the people that he interviews, which are all, he interviews, CEOs of Fortune 500 companies and, athletes and all these high performance people. And just hearing that, wow, 40% of those people meditate was enough to get me to try it. And coming full circle back to what we first started talking about, which is like procrastination. Starting my day by meditating lowers my anxiety level palpably. I mean, I am a completely different person. I'm naturally sort of like ride high on the anxiety horse. And so it makes a big difference, right? Because when you're, if that's you, if you're just high strung naturally and you start your day already feeling behind, right? Like I got to do all this, I got to do my morning routine and I got to make the kids lunches and I got to get to work and I'm already late and all this stuff. If you take a couple deep breaths, if you take 3 deep breaths and just sort of center yourself, I guarantee you it's going to make a difference. And initiating those habits is going to be a little bit easier, and you'll be surprised. I'm going to paraphrase this quote, but there's this, Gandhi had this quote that's like, today I'm too busy to meditate, so I will meditate for twice as long. So, something, right? Because like it's in those situations where we feel like we're too stressed to de-stress, where we need something in place to help us with that.
Speaking of Dan Millman, one of the books he's written, again, so many good ones, but one of his older ones, which is I think worth looking up, is called Body Mind Mastery, and that's one that just stuck out with people that I've turned on to his stuff as a favorite over and over again. Definitely worth looking into. But my favorite Gandhi story was years ago. Apparently, some woman brought her kid to see Gandhi, and she said, I want you to tell him that he shouldn't be eating sugar, right? And Gandhi said, okay, come back in a month. And so she went away for a month, and she came back. She brought her son back, and then her son came, and Gandhi said, stop eating sugar. And she's like, how come you just didn't tell him that a month ago? And he said, a month ago, I was eating sugar. So he had to get himself off of it before he could tell, right? He had to walk the talk. Yeah. I think that's a great story. Whether it's true or not, it's one that's trickled through,
Yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah.
Hey, what are those guys doing here? Whenever I feel like I'm stalling out on my bench press, I know I need a new strength curve.
Whether you're stalling out on the road or stalling out in the gym, you need something with great engineering.
That's right. And
So look for the pendulum. Pendulum.
Not just your average strength machines.
No, they have smooth strength curves.
Amazing rigidity.
And did we mention the engineering's fantastic?
That's right. Not to mention, they come in cool colors.
Like red.
And silver. Well, that was kind of weird. What was that all about? Back to the interview.
That speaks to, sort of the environment that you find yourself in, which is crucial, right? Whether we, when it comes to our body composition, right? Our genetics play a huge role in that, but our environment plays a big role in that as well, right? People more and more are talking about epigenetics and how, maybe half of your ability to stay at, quote unquote, healthy. I don't know if you want to put quotes around that or not, but a healthy body weight, right, is just who your parents are. But we do through where we live, if it's a clean environment, what we eat, what we drink, do we exercise, what type of exercise do we do, our mental health, all of these things play into our overall holistic health.
I think a lot of this stuff for me is driven by that I have to walk my talk, so like I don't want to be giving people advice, while I'm smoking 2 packs of filterless Camels, and,
right?
And just eating crappy food and
right.
Not working out and all that stuff, and going, hey, you need to work out.
Yeah.
And stop eating sugar while I have Twinkies in the background and all that. So
right.
For me, that's part of it. Is like I need to be able to send a congruent message, right? And I have to, if I'm not living it, it makes it a lot harder for me to say it with integrity and
So one of those things that does help you kind of stick to the plan is, and you might have heard this quote, is that you're the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with, right? So if you haven't heard that quote, just pause this and ponder it for a second, and then think about who are the 5 people that you're the closest to, and think about what type of habits they have. Are they smoking a pack a day? Do they go out and binge drink on Friday night or Tuesday night or, whatever night it is? Is their standard meal? Is it fast food? Or are they focused on eating healthy food and taking in positive content from social media? They're like the people that we spend our the most time with have a major impact, right? Who our spouse, right? Our partners. What are their habits? And you may need to have some frank conversations with people about, hey, I'm trying to make these changes. And also, this is another just hard reality about when you want to set consistent, healthy habits or have healthy discipline, is that some of those people in your top 5, you might need to spend less time with them or no time with them, because they may have habits that drain you so much that it is overwhelming to try to put a new healthy habit in place. And that's really tough to accept because if somebody's in your top 5 and you notice one of those habits, you might have known this person for a long time. They could be a family member, they could be a friend, longtime friend, and they might just not get it, or they might just not be ready to make the same change that you are.
I remember in college, I had already started, cooking for myself. I left home when I was 18, and I was already, sort of taking care of myself. And I went to college late, and I remember being, living with these guys, and I would be cooking, and they were like, "Do you cook that because you like it or because you think it's good for you?" And I was like, both. But they were just looking at the stuff that I lived with a guy who literally ate 3 meals, and he just rotated. And one of them was Burger King, one of them was McDonald's, and one of them was this like local deli.
Right.
And he literally ate the exact same thing. If he went to Burger King, it was this. If he went to McDonald's, it was that. If he went to the deli, it was that sandwich.
Yep.
And he just rotated those 3 things.
And those were the habits he had in place, right?
Plus,
because
he was drinking, all that stuff. But I mean, that was his thing.
Yeah.
What is it today? Burger King.
So that specific sort of debilitating idea is that, right, if a food is healthy, it must not taste good, which, please, if you're listening to this episode right now, that is complete and utter bull crap.
Oh my God.
That is a self-defeating idea that a person who's just not ready to make a change has been telling themselves consistently. And if that idea is in your brain, then you have absorbed it too, and it's a lie. We eat healthy food all the time, and it tastes delicious.
And by the way, if you haven't figured it out, my blog is filled with great recipes, and we have recipes. If you want recipes, write in, and we'll send them to you. Call in, whatever, email, text, find a way to get in hold of us. Send us our text number. But yeah, all of us like to cook at this point. I feel,
which is another habit, right? So you might have to build if you're trying to build other healthy habits.
But the cooking is wonderful. It's so freeing, and the thing is, you make it your own. Everything. You don't need to know shit about cooking. You think of something you want, and you start with a book. Look at a book, and then tweak it.
Look at Google. You don't even need to get a book.
YouTube, right?
You can,
and then just tweak it, right? Because you go, it needs more salt. Fucking put some more in there.
Day one.
I like garlic.
Fry an egg.
Garlic. Yeah. Just
if frying an egg is too hard, just turn on the stove.
Yeah, put some butter in there.
Right. If you've never turned on your stove, then just look at the stove and figure out which way you need to turn the knob, right? Just put one toe on the floor, and just, right. And this is another one of those things, right? Which is self-defeating, that there are people out there who are in their 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s who have never cooked for themselves, who don't know how to do it, and are too embarrassed to admit that they don't know how to do it. So here's the thing: is there's an ego component to this too. And this is something at TNT, one of our core values is Kaizen, right? It's this idea of continuous improvement. In order to be committed to continuous improvement, a couple things need to happen. We need to, in the first step, admit that we're always a beginner, right? We're always learning. We're always willing to admit what we don't know, which means that we have to let go of perfectionism. Because if we, we have degrees, right? I got my degree from UCLA. I could easily say like, oh, you can't tell me anything about whatever, which would be stupid, because when you really are starting to master something, whether it's, the art of strength training or eating healthy or whatever, or nutrition or whatever it is, the more you learn, the more you realize there is to learn.
Right.
And really there are just deeper and deeper levels to this stuff. And
like the empty your cup, and it's like the white, martial arts thing, right? The classic, you start as a white belt and you build your way up. And, almost anyone who's really, really, truly spent time, exploring martial arts, when they get to that point where they finally get a black belt and whatever it is, that's when they realize, whoa, I'm still just learning.
Yeah.
right? They all sort of come to that epiphany at some point.
Right.
That's why they keep on seeking, to learn more stuff, right? They want to, and there's always more out there. Are you looking up how to boil an egg?
Yeah.
What
So
was that?
so as we were talking about, it made me think of some other concepts that James Clear likes
How
to talk
soft-boil
about.
an egg?
Yeah. Because starting out it's the toughest part, right?
I love soft-boiled egg.
I love any type of egg.
Yeah, eggs are awesome, but
Eggs-
here's how you
eggs
soft boil
Benedict.
eggs really quick, you guys. Put cold water in a pan. Put some eggs in there. Okay. Turn the pan on. Watch it. As soon as it starts to bubble, start a timer for 3.5 minutes. Turn off the flame at 3.5 minutes. Remember, it's been sitting in there, but you're not starting the clock until you see the first boiling bubble start. Bubble starts, 3.5 minutes. Turn it off. Run under some cold water. Crack it open. You got that nice runny center, and the rest of it's firm. Delicious.
Yeah.
Now take an avocado, cut it in half, pull out the seed, take that soft-boiled egg, plop it in the hole where the seed was.
Yeah.
Salt and pepper, a little olive oil. Holy crap, is that delicious?
Yum.
Gave you your first recipe right there.
So there are a couple concepts from James Clear I want to mention. Number one is the Dunning-Kruger effect. So Dunning-Kruger is this idea that when
They make pots and pans, right?
yeah
It sounds like a vacuum company.
when we first learn about something, we get really excited about it and we assume that we know a lot, right? So you might read a book on it or something, and then you're an expert, right? And then you start to learn a little bit more about it, and you realize, whoa, there's a lot I don't know, and that is totally demoralizing, right? So you they graph it, and there's this sharp spike up, on the one axis is your perceived knowledge, and then one is time, right? And so quickly there's this huge spike in perceived knowledge, but then after not very much time, it just dive bombs, back to baseline, because you realize you really know just slightly more than nothing. And then you slowly, so that's called the valley of despair. And then you slowly,
That sounds not fun.
yeah, and then you slowly climb out of it. And that's sort of what it's like to start building a habit. Is you start it out and you're like, yes, you got that juice going, and you're like, I've got this new habit, and then 30 days go by and you're like, okay, I have to work at this a little bit, right? But as you reinforce that habit, it does get easier, but you have to stick with it.
One of my mentors in the world of self-defense, Tony Blauer, who is a fascinating guy, he always said that his definition of an expert is someone who has memorized someone else's information. And so to him, that's, again, like you're saying, it's kind of a beginner thing.
Yeah.
Right? You've memorized this other person's information, but it isn't yours.
Yeah.
And to the real high level for him, he uses the word scientist. So the scientist can take A and C and extrapolate to B, right? And that's another level, right?
Yeah.
And I have a lot of friends that are exactly as you described, with the Dunning-Kruger thing, they'll read some article somewhere and all of a sudden they're talking like they know everything about it.
Yep.
They're like, I read this thing and I'm like, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Now you're an expert on heart disease. I got it. You read that pamphlet.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's amazing. So it definitely happens.
One other thing I want to mention that ties into all this stuff, staying disciplined, motivated, being able to build habits, preventing, procrastination and perfectionism, is your outside of the people that you surround yourself, is your physical environment. Are you spending time in space that keeps you motivated and operating at a high level? So there's some element of privilege here, because your income and the area you live in, that plays into this. But being mindful of where are the spaces that I do feel motivated in. I'll give you an example. We're sitting in our TNT studio office right now, and we have two quotes on our wall here, Stoic quotes. One is from Epictetus. It says, "No matter what happens, it is within my power to turn it to my advantage." And I put that quote on my wall in 2020 when TNT was first starting up as a virtual company. And 2020, we know, was a challenging year for many people, including us. And I felt like I needed to look at that every single day, because there were a lot of hard days that year.
Yeah.
The other quote we have on the wall is from Marcus Aurelius. It says, "The things you think about determine the quality of your mind. Your soul takes on the color of your thoughts." So for me, like I said earlier, motivation makes up 5 to 10% of my sort of daily operating, the pie chart of discipline, motivation, and habits. But that's still right. If I'm at 90% and I'm solid on my discipline and habits, that's an A minus, right?
Mhm.
And like, if I do make sure that I'm looking at those every day, which I generally do, then that gets me to an A plus, right? And, or let's say I'm not super solid on, on the discipline and the habits. Let's say I'm like 70%, solid.
Right.
And now I'm looking at those quotes daily. Now I'm at a B minus rather than a C minus, right?
I actually made these little, 3x5 cards and that I put all over my house. I'd stick one on the bathroom mirror, like inside the cabinet, whatever. And it just said on it, the choices you make dictate the life that you lead. And then, a little Shakespeare, to thine own self be true, right?
Yeah, for sure.
And I just had that stuck all over the place so that I would like everything, everywhere I looked, it would be in my face.
Right.
Like make a good choice, But yeah, even if you're in these places, like Jess was saying, privilege or whatever. But I mean, if you're in the city, wherever you are, and again, it's always easier to say it than do it. But I mean, you can hopefully, walk outside and like just look up and get some sun on your face. You know what I mean? Like where you're moving through the world, walk above ground instead of below ground. I'm just thinking of friends of mine that live in New York City, right?
Yeah.
Get above ground a little bit and get some air and some, even if it's city air, just breathe it in and, find time to put your feet on the ground, like Jesse said. But, another thing from Dan Millman, that I used to do every day was, I'd get up in the morning and do this dowsing. It's like a Russian health thing. You're supposed to take your shoes off and you're supposed to actually be in contact with the earth, but you dump a bucket of cold water over your head. I used to do it every
ice bucket challenge
Yeah,
yourself.
and I used to do it every morning and every night. There's something that he did religiously for years. And it is different. It's not the same as taking a cold shower or something. It's you feel it almost like someone flipped a switch in your body. The electricity like runs through. And I got you. You're supposed to do it before noon and before midnight, like twice a day. And I did it so consistently that I used to have a giant bucket. Like I worked at the San Francisco Bay Club in the gym and I had the bucket. I left it there and I'd go to the gym and I'd just fill it with cold water. And
that'll wake you up.
Yeah. And it's not, and I would go outside and stand on the ground, even if it's freezing cold. It takes 2 seconds. It'll wake you up and get you going. I can tell you that.
I do that sometimes too. I just, if I'm extra tired, I pop on that cold shower.
Yeah.
You will be awake. Let me tell you, you won't need caffeine that morning.
Yeah. In the summertime, I always take cold showers, and then I use peppermint soap and cold shower, and it kind of like so it makes me extra cold.
Yeah. So keep in mind, folks, right? There's all these like motivation hype gurus, and some people, right? Like David Goggins is like, you got to be disciplined. If you're motivated, you suck and you're weak, and he's really funny about it. But that's like what he believes. Like you need to be really disciplined. He runs through pain and all of this stuff. There are other schools of thought like James Clear that I mentioned, who really believe that, you really need to sort of default to, your habits, and we build we layer these things up over time. There are people who believe strongly in motivation. Eric Thomas is a a motivational speaker. He talks about all these things. Tony Robbins, obviously, another very famous guy.
I'm not your guru.
Yeah, there's a bunch of people out there who talk about motivation. It's funny because like sometimes in a motivational speech they talk about how you shouldn't bank on motivation and you should focus on discipline. But like people who are watching it to be motivated,
right?
Not necessarily to be disciplined.
Take some action.
So here's the thing: is these people, right? They're, I pay attention to this stuff. I read the books. I watch the videos. It helps, right? For me, it's a good like 5 to 10% boost in my days and weeks and months. For you, your pie chart might be broken down a little bit differently, right? You might be like 50%, motivation, and you watch a lot of these videos and books and that sort of, and podcasts and that sort of stuff. And you might be like 25% discipline, 25% habit. For, other people, you might be like 100% discipline, 100% habit, so everyone's going to have a different breakdown. And the most important thing, like Liam said, know thyself, right? If whatever type of person you are, bank on that and fall back on that as you're entering this new year and trying to crush your health and fitness goals.
And since we always tell you how to strength train safely and efficiently, do 1 push-up, 1 sit-up, and 1 squat.
When?
Anytime.
Anytime.
Just so you did some exercise.
You can say you did a full body workout.
Exactly. 1 of each. Just do 1 of each of those things.
Just move your body a little bit.
Yeah. And bam, you're on your way.
Good luck out there, folks.
That's right. Happy New Year.
Boom, baby!
What's up, people? Thank you so much for listening to this episode of
Truth, not trends.
That's right here at TNT Strength Headquarters, Truth Not Trends.
Please, if you enjoyed this episode, subscribe, rate, and review us on whatever platform you're listening to us on. And don't forget to share with a friend.
You can find us on the web at tntstrength.com.
That's right, TNT Strength now coming to you in person at 5255 College Avenue in Oakland, California. You can call the studio 510-768-5421. You can also text us at 855-796-9905.
Or shoot us an email at contact@tntstrength.com. And whatever you do, stay off of that stupid blue bubbly bosun.
Not even supposed to be here today. Not even supposed to be here today. I'm not even supposed to be here today. Oh, fuck you.
I don't need this. I'm not even supposed to be here today.
Mixed and edited by Desmond McNeese for We Mixed It, LLC. Go to whatsoundsawesome.com.
37? Shut up.
And we're out.